Last year in the NFC, multiple teams went all out to try and win a Super Bowl. Ultimately, the Rams came home with the Lombardi, but it was a close race until the very end. With all the changes that happened this offseason and new players going to new teams, there will certainly be a shift in power. So here are my NFC division winners this season. Starting off here in the NFC North, the Packers have reigned supreme for many years here. The Vikings have won it a couple times, but I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers to win the NFC North this year. And there are a lot of question marks coming out of Green Bay. You know, they lose Davante Adams, who was their main receiver, main offensive weapon, really, for many years with Aaron Rodgers there. And it's going to be tough to replace him, but they have brought in some young talent in an effort to kind of replace that production there. So we'll see how Christian Watson, their second round pick, wide receiver out of North Dakota, does. He definitely has the size and the measurables to be an elite receiver there with Aaron Rodgers, but it's not easy to replace a player like Davante Adams. But you look at the pieces they have there on that roster, especially their two running backs, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, to form a deadly backfield duo there in Green Bay. And then the pieces they bring back on defense, they add a little bit through the draft there. So I think that Green Bay has the best roster on paper, definitely in the NFC North. You could argue the Vikings are looking better than last year, and they lose Mike Zimmer and replace him with a new young head coach. So the Vikings could definitely challenge them in the North here. Packers probably going to be a little bit of a weaker team this year than last year. Not a weak team, still a contender here in the NFC, but we'll see how they deal with Davante Adams. I still think Aaron Rodgers puts together another MVP caliber season. I don't know if he's going to win the MVP for a third straight year. That would be incredible, but I still think that he finds a way to take this Packers team to the playoffs, win the division, and once again compete to try and win a Super Bowl here. So I think that Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers are able to win the NFC North this year. Next up, we have the NFC South, and I think this one might shock a lot of people, but I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints. I mean, you look at who they've added and gotten back this offseason. Jameis Winston is coming back after putting together a pretty good season there before the injury. They bring back Michael Thomas, who, I mean, he might have been the best receiver in the league at one point. You know, many people will say that's an over-exaggeration, but I think that he was definitely at least top 5 for a little bit of time there. And now you add him to a core that has brought in Chris Olave through the draft and Jarvis Landry through free agency. I mean, they have gone from one of the worst wide receiver cores in the league last year to now one of the best in the entire NFL. So I think you look at the pieces that Jameis has this year, it might be one of the best, if not the best, set of weapons that he's had in his entire career, especially when you have a guy like Alvin Kamara who can really do it all out of the backfield. And then they'll be just fine on defense, still bringing back key veterans, and they also add a player like Tyrann Mathieu there to be a vocal leader for them and just an all-around playmaker in the middle of that defense who will definitely put together some nice numbers coming back home to Louisiana. So I think he'll be extra motivated. They still have Dennis Allen, who is now promoted as their head coach. So I think that Sean Payton, losing him will definitely hurt. But I think that their defense, which really came to life at the end of the season last year, will support this offense, who I think will take a big leap from last year, especially with Jameis's injuries and, you know, their lack of star power on that offense. I think they'll upgrade mightily, and I think Tampa Bay has more question marks than them at this point. You know, is Tom Brady, he's not done, but, you know, he kind of feels like he's 1 foot in, 1 foot out right now. And Tampa Bay, they have a lot of veterans who are starting to age there a bit. So we'll see if Tampa Bay can still win this division, but I really think New Orleans is going to win it this year, especially with all that talent they added. And, you know, Jameis, I think this is his big year where he's really going to break out and assert himself as one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Up next, we have the NFC West. The Rams won it last year, and I think that they will win it again this year. Coming into this season, they definitely have the best roster out of any of the teams in this division. You bring back the duo of Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. That right there alone makes them one of the best offenses in the league. We'll see what happens with OBJ. I think he does come back, whether that be late in the season for another great playoff run. We'll see. But I think that OBJ does end up coming back. And you look at adding a player like Allen Robinson, who, there was a period of time where people were saying that he's a great receiver just in a bad offense, and really struggled last year with Justin Fields and that Bears team. So we'll see if adding him to a better offense with the Rams and Matthew Stafford will kind of put him back on the map as one of the best receivers in the NFL. And obviously this defense still, if you have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, you're still one of the best defenses in the NFL. Even though they do lose a great player in Von Miller, they still have Leonard Floyd there to rush on the edge, and we'll see if they add any more pieces this offseason. But you look at adding a player like Bobby Wagner there in the middle, can help mentor a young player like Ernest Jones. I mean, they have some great linebackers, and then they bring back Troy Hill also in the secondary. So I think that their defense will be great again under Raheem Morris, and you still have Sean McVay, you still have the star power there with Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. So I think that it's going to be tough for these other NFC West teams to challenge them. The Seahawks obviously are not the same this year. A lot of question marks with the Cardinals, but I think maybe the 49ers are the only team that can really challenge the Rams this year. And I think they're simply not going to be good enough to beat the Rams in this division here. So I'm going to take the Rams to win the NFC West again. And last and probably least, we have the NFC East, or the NFC least, as a lot of people like to call it. The Cowboys have won it the past couple of years, but I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to win it this year. And it really comes down to the fact that this is a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts. He has to prove to the organization that he can take that next step as a quarterback for this team. And I really think that he can do it, especially when you add a player like A.J. Brown to this offense. It really takes some pressure off of your young quarterback, now having two electric playmakers for him with Devontae Smith, who showed signs of being an elite receiver potentially for them last year. And you add a player like A.J. Brown, who is already one of the best receivers in the NFL. So when you have two dynamic playmakers like that, along with some of the other players they have on that offense in Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts is, an electric player as well, I think that they will do just fine there on the offensive side. And they do add some nice players through the draft on defense. You look at adding a player like Jordan Davis up the middle there to man that defensive tackle spot next to Fletcher Cox. I think that, that duo will do a great job of manning that D-line there in Philadelphia. And then you add a player like Nakobe Dean, who was a leader at Georgia. I think that they got a really good value pick for him in the third round there. We'll see if he can stay healthy. There were questions about injuries there, which caused him to fall. But if he can stay healthy, they got a great value there in the third round with Nakobe Dean. Still bring back some key veterans on defense like Darius Slay. So I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are primed to win the NFC East this year. I really do. The Cowboys, they lose some pieces there with Amari Cooper, with Randy Gregory leaving. I think that they're a little bit damaged there. And Mike McCarthy going to feel the pressure of that Dallas faithful, pushing him to really win some playoff games this year. So I think that Philly's going to be better than Dallas. They are a better team on paper, and I think that Jalen Hurts really has something to prove this season, and I think he'll step up for this Philadelphia Eagles team. So I think that Philly's going to win the East this year, but if you disagree with that take or any of the other predictions I had for this video, please let me know down in the comments. If you did enjoy, leave a like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And that is AK21 out. Peace.